Joyful Christian Hermit. Well, it's been a very eventful day. This word transition that came to me this morning, and I was asleep until 10 this morning. And from maybe like 10 o'clock last night, I don't know. But transition is really crucial to us. And one of our viewers, Carol, mentioned she had an insight about old age being a transition, and also how positive it is that it is an upward helix, an upward movement of a helix of that old age is not negative. And it's so true. She called it an upward double helix. The transition. And I kept getting the words, using transformation, but the transitions we have always lead to transformations. God brings our transitions. God knows what transitions we need and when we need them, how they'll be, whether they'll come slowly or quickly, or be huge transition or subtle or slight. And then it's up to us to accept and to determine. We have choice, will, to use our intellect and will to weave truth, beauty, and goodness in and out and all around the transition, and to love the transition. It's our choice to love that transition. And God will help us because He is love. But love whatever transition and view it as a positive always, because it's leading us. When we get through the transition, we'll be transformed in some way or shape or type. And ultimately, with aging or our bodies, mine in decline or all. But it's not, mine isn't a sudden thing, or it's been very gradual, with the pain increasing and the different body aspects worsening, or like the intestines gradually worsened until, their externals have to be used. And it's a transition. And through it, see, we learn so much. If nothing else is transformed from the transition, our minds are, in how we view things. And the more transitions, the more we realize that, like I did today, because I was feeling the guilt of getting these few extra little 1 gallons, and then of changing some trees around. And I even started thinking, with what limited energy and body I have, should I be doing that? That maybe I shouldn't. But then with the transition, you realize it doesn't matter. Go with the transition. Go with the truth, the beauty, and the love. Keep it all loving. The truth, beauty, and goodness. Keep it all very positive. And what will come of the transition, the transformation, also isn't just for ourselves. So as I mentioned in an earlier video, I think I did, I don't know. But I've been thinking about it, is I remembered the island place and hauling all those trees out there. I had no idea in that temporal transition of realizing, I had to do something with all those trees that I'd planted, and a lot of the ground cover, a lot of things were totally lost. And that was sad. I couldn't get enough people there fast enough to even take things for free. Flat perennials and ground covers, but I practically gave away the stone pathways and patios. A man came and did all the work taking them out. I had to move on it. Someone had bought it, was going to come in, closing was coming, and they didn't want anything, but I think they ended up keeping 4 trees is all, or even 3. One huge, gorgeous pond cypress I had to cut down. Oh my. What a sad situation that she didn't want that beautiful pond cypress. It didn't cause any problem to anything. She just wanted a naked yard. She didn't want the tiers. So we just, sloped it all straight down. How she was going to mow it, I have no idea. She wanted grass, just sloped straight down. And everything out of the front, except she kept one tree. And then ended up in the end saying, well, no, she really wanted another in front. But the main one, conifer, it was tiger. It's the most prickly tree. It bites you. It's like a tiger biting you if you dare touch it. And it was up by the walkway, but I didn't mind it there. It was a gorgeous looking tree, but it wouldn't be the one I would keep. That would be the only tree that people would want to touch, your guests and things, and then be bitten by the needles. So it's the sharpest, oh my goodness. But no, however, people want. And I think she kept 2 trees in back is all. A tulip poplar that I had only just because it was native. It's just a shade tree, didn't have anything spectacularly gorgeous, but it's all right to have normalcy. I have trees here that are for other reasons, but she didn't want, but I had to do something with the trees, so I sold as many as I could. Of the big ones I couldn't take, I gifted people who I'd loved and had been so good to me. I let them come and pick trees, and oh my, and they got some that I would have taken, but I knew, let them choose what they wanted because they'd been so good, and I stuck with that. Truth, beauty, and goodness. And then when I ended up hauling all those trees and planting them, and had to have help with some, just because the massive amount to get them in the ground. They had been already in these black plastic bags, barely with any soil, bare rooted, and a big long journey. So, but when I ended up selling the place, about 5.5 years, close to 6 years later, the man bought it because of the trees, because of the landscaping, the gardens. Who would know? See, all my foolishness and my expenditure. Oh, my kids, when they found out what I had spent. But even my financial advisor then, a nice Catholic man, who was very honest and he was very prudent himself, but he realized and he said, these are the vacations and the dinners out you never get to have. He said, or a new car. He says, you drive this old car, and it's a good one. My mother had gotten me for it. It was a used one, but it got old. But it had good shocks, and I could drive further. Could drive even 20 miles, 24 miles, or more. Because it had good seat, good construction, but best car I'd had. But he said other people would go out and buy a new car that would be everything you've spent on all these trees and plants and roses and flowers and ground covers and stonework, and hiring the man to use his equipment to make tiers down to the pond and all the stonework. And we had stone embankments with round rocks. I love stones. I love rocks, and to touch them, and to see them, and to, they're just beautiful. And I had 12 beautiful, unusual stones that stood upright and had fissures in them. They were sort of flat like tablets. Reminded me of the Ten Commandments, but they weren't smooth. But different colorations and striations of these rocks, these stones. And I used them as stations of the cross, just these simple stones in 12 different locations along the pathways. So I could do the stations of the cross like the Virgin Mary did in Ephesus in her little house there in the back garden. It was said that she would go out and meditate and would use stones, different stones in her yard to remember the way of the cross. It might be legend, but I liked it. I thought, what a great idea. But this man on the island, I took one stone with me. It was so special. I ran out of space from all these things. And, but my daughter loved it. Then when I moved there, she took that with her to where she lived, where she had moved. When I was selling it, she wanted that stone. But then she ended up leaving it there with the house. And I said, oh, I'd like to have it back. I had this place in. But no, she says it needs to go with the house. And I thought, well, that's true. I'd given it as a gift. And the person getting that house probably loved that stone in front. She put it in front. So it's in the transitions, it's always doing good that counts, and being truthful and true, and sticking with beauty. And it's not necessarily doing the practical thing or what you think is prudent, or don't let guilt come in. I was doing that. I was starting to feel guilty because that man on the island place, he bought it because of the landscaping. And of course, he liked the house. It was like a 1904 new house. Everything had to be redone. And I don't think he realized that the old lady had done except the roof and the bulk of the siding. I did the front part of the siding myself, but I took off all the siding, the asbestos siding, wore a mask and gloves, double bagged it, made it legal, how you're supposed to do it. And, but, I might be exposed. I didn't care. I'm old, I didn't worry about that risk, but it would have cost me $20,000 to hire someone to do it through the EPA rules. They charge a lot because of that risk of the asbestos. So, but, I was freed from fear of death. So I did it for nothing. And unfortunately, my daughter did help with some of it, and I didn't want her to. So I pray and pray that she'll be okay. And didn't get any whiff of that. She wore a mask also, but still it can get on your clothes. And she was to wear gloves. She was to wash everything and keep her mask on when she took her clothes off and things. So we'll see. But if it does affect you, it usually comes years later then. It comes back. That's what happened to my mother. She must have been exposed to asbestos as a child because they couldn't figure out how she had pulmonary fibrosis in old age. It worked, and the man paid for the island place. I got reimbursed. God was good. But I had to leave what my eldest daughter said, oh, this would be ideal for you, Mom. I wish you could stay here. I wish there was some way. And The only thing not was, of course, my finances. I had a feeling if it hadn't been for my needing pain meds and the island doctors not giving them to me, that she would have probably helped me financially to stay there. And then in the end of my life get reimbursed, or I could reimburse her as I went along. But I couldn't afford it. The other reason, my son had co-signed and he wanted off of it. So, I'd have to pay him out, or, get his name off. And I couldn't afford a loan on my own that much. So, yeah, so it had to be sold. But she wished that for me. She knew. She knows what is me. And that's why I'm praying she'll come around. But anyway, I just wanted to say this added about transitions and how they are beautiful. And like Carol, the viewer, said, aging is a transition and it is beautiful. It leads us. She says it's a helix, upward helix, not negative. But how few view it positively. See, I was getting all, of course, mine was more thinking about what other people think. And it is upsetting for others to see me living like this and basically not the energy to finish. But I still might, I don't know. I realize that too. This is a transition. A little bit ago, I got up, and my feet had gone numb on me. I had to grab the bed, and sit down and on the edge and try to get bit feeling back in before I dared try to walk. But things are happening, and but I was able to get those planters planted, the dogs with me on their leashes. Lovey kept trying to eat the manure I'd put in, or any little pieces of bark that was in the amended soil that I got. And but they were sniffing around. We planted the seeds. Of course, he grabbed a seed bag at one point, a seed packet, and had it flopping out of his mouth, and he comes right over to me with it. He's a character. But Mercy then is very, very down to business, and gets concerned if the leashes get tangled, and is very careful of me, and stops. Oh, we've got to get Mom untangled here. So she helps do that, make sure, very sensitive. But got all the planters planted except for two. Still deciding, if what I'm gonna put in. If I'm gonna do another tomato plant, or maybe use it for some. I've used up old seeds. You can use old seeds. The percentage of produce you'll have is much less. Year by year, it goes down a percentage, big percentage. So I'll see, if things come up. I had a couple of new seed packets, so I'll replant. But the tomatoes were already started. Got those at the greenhouse. Great price. And they have all different varieties. And there were 3 different tomato plants that I used that had names given to the tomato plants by whoever developed them, developed the seed and the cultivar. And they're dedicated to each of my 3 living children. I'm going to look at the other 2 names and see if I have one for my child who's in heaven. I lost a child between my second daughter and my son. So, we'll dedicate one for him. Anyway, transitions are always transformative, but we don't know in what way we're going to be transformed. Up until today, I hadn't even thought about any of this. What a difference it makes, breakthrough. And it puts everything else in perspective of, I'm not feeling the angst of how am I going to even get this inside cleaned up, or oh my, just trying to bake the Lebkuchen today. The dough was already done. Took 4 stages yesterday with resting in between. But oh yeah, I would put in 1 sheet. I only took 2 cookie sheets. They're very easy. You just roll it, cut them into pieces, and on the tray and in the oven. The simplest cookie. And I don't put any sugar drizzle on top. I lessen the sugar in them. Here's one right here. A little treat for later. And those are bits of fig and cran raisin chopped up in it, and pecans. So it's an old family recipe. If you want it, let me know. My great grandmother, German. It's a German cookie. And it usually has citron, but I'm using up dried fruit I had, and figs are very good for low iron, so I'm trying to get figs in me. And plus, they're good for my intestines. Warning, caveat. If you don't have issues, don't eat too many. With this combination, you can put whatever in them, I'm realizing. They have clove and cinnamon as their flavoring, though, so you wouldn't want something that would clash with that. But, yeah, I had to use ice during the day to help with but this ice came to me last night to try ice just all the time. So what a gift that is. That's a transition for me of I had the best sleep last night, even though I had to get up several times to refresh the ice pack. And that's what happened. One time I got up and I must not have been aware because I didn't put the ice pack in the freezer. I just took one out. I had to look around finding it this morning where I'd put it. But that's why then I woke up with terrible pain because the ice pack had lost its coldness and all this pain came flooding in. So it's a transition for me that's transforming. So I don't have as severe of pain. I know what to do. Simple solution. I mean, it's takes time. I can't be doing things when I'm laying there. Plus, I sleep now on this wedge thing because it's firm. I don't want this big hump to get worse. I think that's what was happening. Something is pinching in there. And it's pinching off. Maybe the cord has stenosis in that spot. I'm so glad they're doing an MRI also of this mid-back, the thoracic spine. But keep it all positive. It's God that does it. It's transitions are always God's doing. He brings them in His timing, in His way. Some are huge, major, some are small, some are ones that we don't even think about the transitions. And I'm participating in tree transitions. Like the one tree that was dying. God used me to remove it. I had to do it in little pieces over time, And this is another thing is, so what if everything takes me so long in comparison with transitions and the transformation that comes? Don't look back. I was doing that. I was comparing. I couldn't remember much, but I could remember right in December. In November, I was painting this room and the ceiling. In the fall, maybe it was October, when it got too cold to paint the exterior. And I was doing the window trim in December. Because I could get warmed up in a coat and use my saw out there, come in to cut the window trim. And I would paint it in here. Well, not in here, but in the dining room on the sawhorses. Several coats, different types of coats I needed to do, and lightly sand and tack cloth it and wipe it off, damp wipe it. Also, if I needed to get any bits of sawdust, to put the fine coat of paint, this fine paint on it, because it's the woodwork. And I would be hard pressed to stand and paint like that. Now, I could do some, but not nearly what I was doing. So it's, if we compare, yeah, it's going to become negative. We've got to keep it positive. Don't do anything that lets it be negative. Other than it's okay to be realistic, have the realization that it is a transition, that it is happening. And then you make good truth and beauty in it. Have truth about what's happening. That's the reality part, the truth part. So it's just been really a big day. A huge opening. A few steps on the stairway to heaven. Went up a floor on the elevator. Whatever metaphor. It's very good. All right, I'm going to stop this. Then I think if I don't start falling asleep, I want to talk about Gregory of Narek finally.